There is a small lizard on the wall of your house right now, and the odds are good that you have already seen it tonight without giving it a second thought. It flattened itself against the wall near the porch light. It made a sharp, rapid chirping sound you may have heard before without ever knowing what produced it. And if you have been living in Queensland or anywhere along the northern and eastern coast of Australia, you have been coexisting with this animal for years, possibly without realizing that sharing your home with it is, at the same time, one of the best things that could happen to your insect problem, and one of the most complicated wildlife situations playing out right now in Australia's urban ecology. The animal on your wall is the Asian house gecko. Its scientific name is Hemidactylus frenatus, from the family Geckonidae, the geckos, one of the largest and most diverse families of lizards on Earth, with well over 1,500 known species distributed across every warm region of the planet. Hemidactylus means half finger, a reference to the unique structure of the adhesive pads on its feet. Frenatus, in Latin, means bridled or restrained, a reference to a faint pattern of markings along its back. It grows to between 7 and 15 centimeters in length, lives for roughly 7 years, and is, without question, one of the most successful reptile colonizers in the history of the modern world. From its native range in South and Southeast Asia, this gecko has spread pantropically, meaning across the entire tropical and subtropical belt of the planet, hitching rides on cargo ships, in luggage, in potted plants, and in building materials, until it became established in Australia, the Americas, Africa, and dozens of island chains across the Pacific and Indian Oceans. In Australia, it has been here for approximately 50 years, but according to research by herpetologist Conrad Hoskin, published in Ecology, the last 2 decades have seen a massive range expansion across settled areas of northern and eastern Australia, and that spread continues at pace. So what is it actually doing on your wall? The short answer is hunting. The Asian house gecko is nocturnal, hiding during the day in crevices behind wall fittings, under roof tiles, and inside ceiling cavities. As the sun goes down and artificial lights come on, flying insects gather around those lights in enormous numbers, and the gecko knows exactly where to be. It positions itself near the light source, holds perfectly still, and waits. When an insect comes within range, it launches in a rapid burst, captures it in its jaws, and returns to its position to wait again. It has no eyelids. Instead, each eye is covered by a transparent scale, similar to a contact lens, which the gecko licks clean with its tongue. This gives it excellent low-light vision and keeps its eyes functional through an entire night of active hunting. A single gecko, working one wall near one outdoor light, can consume up to 100 insects in a single night. Those insects include mosquitoes, moths, cockroaches, beetles, ants, and termites. Do you have a porch light? Then you almost certainly have a gecko running pest control beside it every single night that you are not watching. Here is what that means in practical terms. Mosquitoes in Queensland carry Ross River virus, Barmah forest virus, and during outbreak years, dengue fever. Every mosquito intercepted at your porch light before it reaches you is a real reduction in your personal exposure. Every cockroach caught on the kitchen wall before it reaches your pantry is a reduction in the salmonella risk that cockroaches carry on their bodies. The gecko is not doing this to help you. It is doing it because it is hungry. But the result, from your perspective, is a continuous, chemical-free, completely free of charge pest reduction service running every night of the warm season. Now here is where it gets complicated, because the story of this gecko on your wall is not simply a good news story. It is something more nuanced than that, and you deserve to understand the full picture. Australia is one of the most extraordinary centers of gecko diversity on Earth. Well over 100 gecko species are native to this country, many of them found nowhere else in the world. Among those native species are several that have been living alongside Australians in their homes for far longer than any Asian gecko has been here. The most commonly encountered is the dubious Ditella, Geheira dubia, from the family Geckonidae, a pale, soft-bodied native gecko that also hunts insects near porch lights and is a completely natural part of the Australian urban ecosystem. You may have seen both species on your wall on the same night without realizing they were different animals. They are similar in size and behavior, and they compete for exactly the same resources, the same light sources, the same insects, the same shelter sites. Is this? Research published in Ecology by Conrad Hoskin at James Cook University argues that Hemidactylus frenatus is spreading rapidly across northern and eastern Australia, is increasingly being detected in natural habitats away from buildings, and carries novel parasites that native reptile species have no prior exposure to. In other parts of the world where this gecko has established itself, across the Pacific Islands, parts of the Caribbean, and Southeast Asia, it has been directly implicated in the decline and, in some cases, the local extinction of native gecko populations. The mechanism is partly competition for food and shelter, and partly disease. The Asian house gecko carries a set of parasites and microorganisms to which it has co-evolved immunity, but which can have significant impacts on native species encountering them for the first time. However, the picture inside Australia itself is genuinely unsettled. A separate body of research paints a more cautious picture. Studies investigating direct interactions between Hemidactylus frenatus and Gehyra dubia found that native geckos are often more aggressive than the invasive species, actively defending their preferred wall spots and resource patches. Research published in Behavioral Ecology found that the native Gehyra dubia is likely to aggressively defend its resources when necessary, and that direct displacement is not the simple or inevitable outcome that early concerns suggested. A separate review published in Australian Zoologist found that Hemidactylus frenatus has largely remained restricted to human-altered landscapes, with limited evidence of major invasion into natural, undisturbed habitats. So the scientific community is not unanimous. The question of how much damage this gecko is actually doing to native species inside Australia is still being actively researched and debated. What does that mean for you, standing in your backyard looking at the gecko on your wall? Here is how to think about it honestly. The gecko you are looking at is genuinely useful to you. It is eating real pests in real numbers, without chemicals, without cost, every single night. Removing it from your wall achieves nothing for conservation. Individual geckos removed from suburban homes are immediately replaced by others from the surrounding population, because the species is already deeply established across the region and is not going to be managed by household-level action. Killing the gecko on your porch is not conservation. It is just killing a gecko. What you can do that actually matters is learn to tell the difference between the Asian gecko and its native equivalent, because the native species deserves your active protection. The Asian house gecko, Hemidactylus frenatus, has a slightly more translucent, pinkish-gray skin, and its call is a sharp, rapid series of clicks, that chuck 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 sound you may have heard at night. It has a more pointed snout and spiny-looking skin texture when viewed closely. The native Gehyra dubia is typically a warmer tan or brown, with smoother skin, rounder features, and a softer, less frequent call. Both species are harmless to touch, will not bite unless physically grabbed, and are doing exactly the same job on your wall. If you can identify the native species, give it priority. Avoid disturbing its preferred spots, and reduce outdoor lighting where possible to limit the competitive advantage that dense insect aggregations around lights give to the invasive species. If you genuinely want to support native gecko populations, the most effective things you can do are turn off unnecessary outdoor lights, reduce the insect density that draws both species to your walls, and support habitat conservation in natural areas beyond your suburb where native gecko diversity is being carefully monitored. You can also report sightings of both species through iNaturalist Australia, where herpetologists are actively tracking the spread of Hemidactylus frenatus to better understand its real-world impact. The gecko on your wall arrived here 50 years ago in someone else's luggage. It has been living beside you, hunting your mosquitoes, and slowly spreading across the Australian coast ever since. It is helping you. It is also part of a story that researchers are still trying to fully understand. Both of those things are true at the same time, and neither of them cancels the other out. Have you ever seen two different geckos on the same wall and wondered if they were the same species? Tell me in the comments, and stay close, because the next animal sharing your home is doing something to your own bed that most people find out about and immediately wish they hadn't. There is a small lizard on the wall of your house right now. You have been sharing your home with it for years. And now, at last, you know exactly what it is doing there, and what it means.